So I normally don't make a gaming news video. There's so much gaming news that happens on a weekly basis that it's just a lot to be able to keep up to date with them, make a video on it, and get it out at a significant amount of time. But in this instance, I wanted to talk about this news. A friend of mine shared the article with me, and I also saw maybe one or two videos on YouTube talking about this in more detail, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it. So, if you haven't heard, Xbox and Microsoft came out to, I guess today, to mention that they are increasing the price of their games by later this year from $70 to now $80 if you buy games physically for Xbox, which you really can't buy physical games as much as you used to be able to. Stores don't really carry as many physical games unless you pre-order. I'll talk about that maybe later, but from my experience, they've stopped really making physical games as common as it used to be. But they're also deciding to increase the price of their consoles and the accessories. Now, I don't know who is really to blame, and I'm not going to throw out any political views or any other, I guess, recent scenarios of why this could be changing, why these prices are increasing, who's at fault for this happening. But if I had to kind of point out someone who might have opened that door, I don't really want to say names out loud, but so when it comes to the changing in price of video games, I want to start there because games going from $60 to $70 was already a big deal. Even from before that, when games got the $60 price tag, a lot of people had a hard time swallowing that pill. And then now that we see games going up to $80, it's getting harder and harder to swallow that pill. It's becoming a much more expensive hobby to be a part of. And yes, there was the Mario Kart World that was priced at $80, and I hear some people saying it's $90 physically. I haven't seen that to reflect as of yet, so I do have to do a bit more research and check that for myself. But there is a weird range of pricing for Nintendo Switch 2 games, like Cyberpunk is going to be $70 for the Switch 2 version, which surprisingly that comes all in the cartridge and not in a stupid game key card that Nintendo's doing. But more on that in another topic, another video. But Cyberpunk is $70 at release. I think Street Fighter 6 for Switch 2 is $60. Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to be $60, I believe. Mario Kart is $80, and then some people claim $90. Maybe it's a regional thing. I got to check that again. But it seems all over the place. They also have a Bravely Default game that's going to be, I think, $40 to $50. So, aside from that, Xbox claiming that games are harder to develop, they're more expensive, the cost of making games is higher, so they gotta combat that high cost with development to make their prices increase. But you really gotta ask Xbox, what development costs are you talking about when you guys don't really make games anyway? Obviously they release games and exclusives, but it's not as often as other competitors like PlayStation and Nintendo. Nintendo specifically has the most common, I guess, the more frequent exclusive releases throughout the year compared to the other two consoles, kind of in recent years with the Switch. Even now, we haven't seen that many PlayStation exclusives releasing, like big major exclusives, like a new God of War, a new Insomniac project, a new Sucker Punch project. Yes, there is Ghost of Yotei releasing this October, which could cost $80 if PlayStation says, hey, Nintendo's doing it, Xbox is doing it, let's do it too. But I'll touch on that a bit later as well. So much I gotta talk about later, but Xbox is saying that they understand that times is tough, maybe for the consumer, not for you guys, the Xbox, the corporate, the big suits with all the money, but we got to combat the price of development and we got to raise prices. Well, maybe your whole Game Pass idea, which was a good idea, but not executed probably to perfection, is now causing you guys to shoot yourself in the foot because, hey, we have all our first party exclusives releasing day one on Game Pass. So rather than you pay us $60 to $70 per game, you're going to pay us, at the time it was like, what, $15 a month to play these games. Their idea was to get more subscribers that will try to outweigh the cost of, or rather the revenue coming in, of people buying the game at full price. If you take 20 people paying for Game Pass, that's obviously not going to earn as much revenue as 20 people buying a full price $60 to $70 game. And what's going to happen also is with the increase of gaming price for Xbox, you can also see another price increase on Game Pass. We're already seeing 2 or 3 price hikes for Game Pass, on the pricing. So they could clearly say, or very easily say, hey, because games cost more, you could buy it at $80 and maybe not get a physical copy. Because remember, they had a whole physical game department that handled the release of physical games, and they kind of shut that department down and cut the team down to a very small size. And I guess they relocated the employees that they kept to other teams, but they no longer had, for a little while, I don't know if they do now, but they no longer had a physical game department with Xbox to release these games in stores. You try to buy a brand new Xbox game on release at a store, if you didn't pre-order it, you most likely will have a hard time finding one. It's not just Xbox. The same happens with PlayStation. I've had so many stores around me, whether it's Best Buy, Target, or GameStop themselves, who said, we don't have a copy of this game at release because we don't get that many already. And if you don't pre-order it from GameStop, you're not going to get a copy at GameStop. Nintendo has done more physical releases in the past couple years. But of course, they're going to reduce that with the Switch 2, given the game key cards and the digital games and all that stuff. So that's a whole other topic for another video with Nintendo themselves on their releases. But they are increasing the price of their console, which people were already not really buying Xbox consoles. Phil Spencer himself has said that Xbox has been in last place for a long time, since the Xbox One, the Xbox Series was in last place, and even in some aspect, the 360 had its issues, causing them to not be in first place. Red Ring of Death, don't try to combat me on that, because Xbox has had their issues. But I will say this firstly, before I go into the list of price increasing. I think the Series S was a good console. It was actually my first next-gen console. I had a Series S before I upgraded to a Series X, and then I eventually got my PS5. I always wanted the PS5. Not to sound like a Sony pony, I've been playing PlayStation since the beginning for the past 30 years. But I'm not just, a pony for calling me that. I obviously got a Bowser mug. I didn't get the mug for the video. I actually like this mug. It's my favorite mug to drink out of. I got my Switch sitting right here. And I also made videos about the Switch 2. I'm going to get my Switch 2 in June. But I think the Series S is a good console because you still get the next-gen or current-gen games. It might be on a bit of a lower resolution and a bit of a lower performance. I play mostly at 60, and if not, I play 30 frames. It doesn't really matter to me as much. But you get the Series S with a good price. I love the Xbox controller. Out of the 3 controllers, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, Xbox is my favorite controller in terms of size and the D-pad. I hate the battery idea of it. Xbox needs to stop using batteries in their controllers and use a rechargeable one. But I like the D-pad of Xbox. I like the size of it. I just love it. But the Series S was a good price, a good controller. You can play Game Pass on Series S. You can do emulation when you really shouldn't, but you could. And there's all those backwards compatible games that you can play on Xbox, like Max Payne 3, Midnight Club LA, GTA 4. All those great older games you can still play, whether you buy it digitally or if it's on Game Pass or Xbox Gold when you had it, back in the day. You can play those games on Series S, and it's very small and easy to travel. You want to bring it to a friend's house and play games with your friends. Very light and easy to carry. I used to do it myself, okay? But now that they're raising the price, and again, people weren't really buying Xboxes as common recently because Xbox wasn't making games. They're sending their games to Sony, PlayStation, and probably soon their games will go on Switch 2. I'm pretty sure Oblivion Remastered will make its way to Switch 2. I'm sure Indiana Jones will make its way, and I'm sure Forza will eventually make its way to Switch 2. But they had the Game Pass for PC, so people on PC were playing Game Pass games, Xbox games on their PC. They were talking about no longer doing consoles possibly and just being a game developer, but they don't really make games anymore, right? They barely make games, and they're going to have a new handheld that they're working on to maybe have a Steam functionality. But when it comes to buying console for Xbox, buying an Xbox console, you used to be able to get the 512GB Series S for $299. Good price. Bad amount of storage because that will get eat up very quickly. I like the Xbox SSD option for the memory card as compared to the PlayStation having the internal SSD where you got to take off the faceplate, take out the screw, put the SSD, put it back on, get the heatsink. I like the memory card option for the Xbox because you could take it from your Xbox to your friend's Xbox and play your games there. It was pretty simple and cool, but pricing was of course high. But you now got to pay or expect to pay $379 for the 512 gigabyte Series S. So it's going up about $80, right? The Series S 1 terabyte was originally $350. That's a really good price. $350 for a Xbox console with a terabyte of storage. A Switch OLED is $350. Which, yeah, you can take it with you, but you only have 64 gigabytes of internal storage on this one, and you got to buy the memory card, the micro SD to get more. But the games you're going to play on the Series S is going to run way better than what you get on the Switch, but you got the portability of Switch for that same price. But anyway, a terabyte Series S is now from $350 up to $430. So again, $80 price tag. I'm noticing a trend here. $80 games, $80 up for the 512 gigabyte, $80 increase for the terabyte Series S. The Series X Digital, which there was a Series X Digital, very similar to the PS5 Digital. Only difference is PS5 Slim. You can now buy it digitally and then buy the disc drive later. But the Series S Digital was $450. Again, comparable to PlayStation Digital was $450. Now gonna cost $550. So that's a $100 jump. So the other ones were $80. This is a $100 before tax, $100 jump for a digital Series X. Now keep in mind before I continue, if PlayStation doesn't increase their prices, if PlayStation says we're gonna keep it the same and not increase it, you can buy a PS5 with a disc drive with the same performance as a Series X for cheaper than what the Series X will cost without a disc drive. Because if you buy the Series X that has a disc drive built in, it was originally $500 like the PS5. It's now going to cost you $600. So there's your options. If PlayStation says we're keeping our price the same and you buy a PS5 with a disc drive, whether you buy a pre-owned original from GameStop, which is on sale for $430, I think right now, something like that, $400. If you're a pro, $400 for that. If you're a pro member, $400 for a PS5 with a disc drive built in. But if you buy a Slim and you get a disc drive separately, you're still potentially saving money compared to buying a disc drive built-in Xbox Series X 1 terabyte for $600. You could then say, hey, you know what? I'm going to save my $600, add another $100 and something, and get a PS5 Pro. Or I'm going to buy a PS5 regular with $500, and my remaining $100 will buy a game or subscribe to PlayStation Plus for those services. But Xbox also has a 2 terabyte Galaxy Edition console, which originally was $600, which is what the current base model is now, and that now costs $730. So, okay, I have money, I want to buy an Xbox Series X, 2 terabyte model, Galaxy Edition, for $730. Or you could buy PS5 Pro, which will have arguably better performance and better specs for the same price, maybe a little bit more you got to shell out. But then it comes to controllers, right? Xbox controller core is $64.99. Wireless controller for color, red, blue, green is $70. The special edition controller, whatever that is, wireless special edition is $80. Limited edition controller is $90. Elite wireless controller is $150. Elite Series 2 controller is $200. It was $180, now it's $200. So on and so forth. It's baffling that they want to charge so much more for their console and accessories when they're already not making as many sales as the competitors are anyway. And typically when consoles are out for 2, 3, 4 years, they lower the price tag. Hey, it's been out, we charged what we did, we're now lowering the price tag so more people can get the hands on it, more people can play it. You really think, Xbox, if you want people to buy your console and buy your games, you really think raising the price is going to make them run over to you guys and buy it? Or you're going to say, forget that, I'm going to go to the competitor, I'm going to buy a PlayStation 5, I'm going to buy a Nintendo Switch 2, which Switch 2 has its pricing, and again, the game prices are all over the place. But at least with PlayStation for now, you can get games for $70 and sometimes cheaper. And at least for Nintendo, you can get games on the Switch 2 between $60 and $80, in some cases cheaper, with like Bravely Default and some other ones that were released as well. But I don't know what else to really say. I'm looking at my phone at more info. I don't know what to say besides this. What are you gonna play on Xbox or on Game Pass with the price increases? Are you gonna play a new Halo? Because I don't think they're working on one, and Halo had a lot of issues with their last developer and the last game they had. Gears of War E Day. Okay, if you're a Gears of War fan, that probably will win you over unless you do the Game Pass and pay more for Game Pass, which subscriptions are already expensive anyway. You have Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and Game Pass and YouTube Premium, which I pay for. You can't pay for everything. You can't have it all. If you can pay for all those subscriptions, then that's good for you. I wish I could do the same thing. But what are you gonna play on Xbox? The last Forza they made, Forza Motorsport, was garbage. Forza Horizon 5 is on PlayStation now. Indiana Jones is now on PlayStation. Doom, the Dark, whatever it's called, Dark Ages. I'm not a Doom fan, but the new Doom game releasing is not an Xbox exclusive. It's releasing on PlayStation. Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered released on PlayStation. So yes, they want to make the games go. They want to put the games on other competitors now to get more revenue for it. But I don't think Xbox is going to make any more revenue to compete with the competitors with what they're doing. And if you are an Xbox fan, I need you to wake up here and say, you know what, my company is doing wrong by me. I love Xbox. I've been with Xbox for years, and I want to keep staying and supporting Xbox, but they're doing wrong by me. How can Xbox keep me from turning on them and going to the competitors? You need to ask yourselves those questions because, again, I've had Xbox a few times. I've played Xbox with some friends online. I had a lot of fun playing those games with those friends online. I almost never play online on PlayStation. And the times I did, I have one friend close to me who does play PlayStation, so we used to play on games, co-op games together. And then the experience I had playing online with a group of friends on Xbox was just, it was just bigger experiences. We had more people to play with. We had more fun, a lot of laughter and humor. But for that price, I encourage my Xbox friends to trade in their Xbox, put some money into it, go on PlayStation. I'll get my Plus reactivated. We can play more games together, fun games together, have that fun time together, or even get Nintendo. I'm getting my Switch 2. I'm keeping my Switch 1 for now. My friends have Nintendo as well. We can play games online there. It's not as good, obviously, but this video's already been long enough. With the Xbox issue, I mentioned PlayStation earlier with their price hike. If they do it, they could easily charge $80 for Ghost of Yotei. GTA 6 could easily charge $80, $90, $100 because Mario Kart has that idea. Nintendo said themselves, we want to get paid for the work that we put into the game. If we put in more work for a game, we want to get paid more. If we put in less work in the game, we want to get paid less. That's kind of like me retelling what they said, recapping what they're saying, and we could see that happen with Ghost of Yotei and the next God of War, the next Spider-Man game. But if it doesn't happen and PlayStation says they're not going to do it and they want to keep their fans happy, then maybe you should come over to the other side and save money on your games. I guess Nintendo had their increasing because of the T word. I don't want to say it here, but they were open about that. They decided to then just keep the console pricing the same, which I see videos saying, oh, console prices for Nintendo are going up. As of now, they're not, as far as I know. My understanding is Nintendo decided to limit the amount of games and physical games and accessories you could buy at release, because all the stores are saying, like GameStop are saying, if you pre-order from here, keep in mind, games and accessories are unlimited. My store that I went to only had 6 copies of each day one game for Switch 2, with the exception of Mario Kart having 18 copies of pre-order available. So if you wanted to get Mario Kart separately, you're not one of the 18 people to get it. You're not going to get it physically at GameStop, at least in my store. Every store has a different amount that they're going to get. I was one of the only 6 who got to pre-order Street Fighter 6. I wanted to pre-order it. I like Street Fighter. I was the first one to pre-order it at that store, surprisingly. But only 6 copies of a game to pre-order for a release date is kind of insane. So Nintendo wanted to do that to limit how much they have to ship out to the US from where they manufacture their games to try to combat the T word, right? But again, I'm not trying to go too deep into that. I don't have a full understanding of it myself, so I'm only giving basics what I know so far. But that's pretty much it for today, I guess. I know people are not going to be happy with Xbox and their price increasing. If you're happy about it and you're going to talk about it in the comments, let me know. I want to see what your reasoning is for understanding their point of view and why you're happy with the news. And maybe it'll give me perspective on it. But for now, I'm happy with my PlayStation. I'm happy with my Switch. I'm going to get my Switch 2 in about a month. And hopefully things go in the right direction for all of us. All of us together. We're all in this together. We're all gamers. We all love to game. It doesn't matter where you game on, but we all have to combat this and say, this is not okay. We cannot afford these price hikes as frequently as they've been happening. We need them to change their mind and keep the prices down. But that's my video. Don't forget to hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Let's talk in the comments. I want to have a conversation with you guys. My name is Anthony Olan, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.